Hello gaming peeps, it's Neil from Gamerevolution. Coming back with another top 10. This time I'm going to do PlayStation 2. Probably the most common console on the market. You know, if you're going to get your kids into games, PS2 is probably the one you're going to pick up. So we'll start off with my number 10. This game I've picked is Aikooka. Aikooka is not a game everybody would go, what's that one? It's not easy to get hold of. It's an extremely rare game. However, it's absolutely fantastic. The graphics of this game and the story and the way everything flows with the atmosphere is absolutely amazing. Basically, you play a young knight, your princess trapped in the castle, and you've got to get her out of the castle, basically. But you're holding on to her hand all the time, and enemies are trying to take her away all the time. You have to kill the enemies and stop her being sucked down sort of a black hole. It sounds a really simple game, but the puzzles are not easy. You know, you have to leave her a place to solve some puzzles so she can get through somewhere, like a drawbridge or things like that, to actually carry on in the game, and you work your way through. Really intensive game, one for the thinkers out there, not one for the button mashers, but it's a brilliant game. You should definitely check it out. So we're going to move swiftly on to my number 9. Number 9 is going to be a game I picked up, had some friends round and cried laughing. It's SXX Tricky. Really good franchise. Later on the franchise went a bit downhill, pardon the pun. This game was really simple. You could go down the hill, get to the bottom, loads of tricks on the way, and the music and just the feel of the game was brilliant. We haven't seen that since Cool Borders really. Others have tried, but they failed miserably. It's a superb game. You get some friends round and you will laugh all the way down. Later on they made it sort of Grand Theft Auto open world type, and it just didn't work. You scan all over the place, and then you'd have the odd race, and that. They took out the simplicity of the game and the fun, and made it too serious, and therefore ended up in the bargain bin with not much people buying it. I bought it probably for about £7 or £8 a new one, tried it out, didn't like it, took it back a couple of days later, traded it in. Coincidentally, I traded it in for my number 8 game, and that is, are you ready for it? Devil May Cry 3. Devil May Cry, brilliant series of games, just gets stronger and stronger. The reason I didn't pick the first two because they were very early in the genre, although they showed a lot of potential, but nothing like Devil May Cry 3. The enemies in that game, it is essentially, you are basically a hunter, but it's the way it's done. The graphics are intense, the control system's really easy to work through. The levels are made up really, really well. It reminds me of a modern day sort of high technology version of Castlevania. The way you go around, and I'm sure some of their minds were that when they were doing the game. It's intense game. There's a lot of really good enemies to fight in this game. The designs of the enemies is superb. Whoever come up with them has obviously got a really good eye for these things. Really good game. Definitely check it out. Which moves me swiftly on to a game that's very, very similar in certain elements, that they can be button bashers, but then you've got to think as well, and that is on to my number 7, and that is God of War 2. God of War franchise came out, and it was like, is this going to be any good? It's Greek mythology, we've seen loads of gladiator type games and slashers, is this going to be any good? It came out, everybody's worried by it, and the second one came out and just looked even better, and it just keeps going from strength to strength. The third one did really well on PlayStation 3, and they even released a trilogy set. It was that successful. It's basically you're a fallen god and have to take out mounted limposcopes. So it's basically the bosses are huge. Now these bosses are not easy. This game is not easy behind it. It's a good button basher. It's a good fight your way through levels, and the graphics are really intense. You know, showing every bit of power of the PS2 towards the end of its life. But you can die several times on a boss until you work out just how to defeat them. And it ain't easy to work out without obviously cheating, but that's the way of playing the game. So that is my number 7. So moving on to number 6. This one will not sit well with everybody, because this is very much you're into it or you're not, and that's WWE Here Comes the Pain, or WWF as it used to be known. We'd seen wrestling games, everybody knows what to expect from them. Great roster, loads of features, played SmackDowns on the PlayStation 1, and this really launched the franchise. The roster was massive, the options were fantastic. It's actually probably the most loved wrestling game. Whenever people saying, oh, there's another one coming out on the 360 or PS3, why don't they design it after Here Comes the Pain? It was the ultimate one. Because the options are great, the flow, you could fight anywhere, all over the place. The moves were intense. You had to create a wrestler which was new, and it just the whole package of that wrestling game stuck to it, and of course launched it into many more, which it just keeps going from strength to strength. That began a bit same with the last couple of years, but now 2K have took over. I think they'll do something a bit more special with it, and there are lots of rumours flying around. So that is my number 6, and now to the top 5. And number 5 on this one is going to be Silent Hill 2. Now, this was the first one to go onto the PlayStation 2. We'd seen it on the PlayStation 1, and it got a good response. People liked it as an alternative to Resident Evil franchise. Number 2, however, when it went on PS2, because the graphics were a lot more realistic and the atmosphere was superb in the game, it really kept you on the edge of the seat. I mean, it's a brown panty moments, these are. The whole franchise has gone from strength to strength. You know, you don't see them often in the game shops, lying on the shelf for long. They come in, people pick them up. They collect them. You know, it's gone from strength to strength. I mean, I have to say, later on, with downpour and things, it just got stronger, whereas Resident Evil later on got weaker. After 4, 5 and 6 was atrocious. 6 is abomination to any gamer. But Silent Hill just goes strength to strength. And basically you go around such an atmospheric place. It's kind of a deranged place though, because it can be nicey looking in the daytime, and then basically siren goes off and it changes, and all the creatures start crawling out of the woodworks, which really tempts you to try and get puzzles done quickly, because when that happens it really sets your nerves and goosebumps on your arms going when it changes. But a superb game. Now, although the franchise is strong, it does lead me on to my number 4, and that is Resident Evil 4. We've seen Resident Evils, probably the most popular franchise in the horror genre you'll get. Really intense. They've done a lot of spin-offs that were dire, like Survivor and such forth. But the proper Resident Evil games have been stunning. This was the first one not to feature zombies, more of deranged people and infected people, rather than like a zombie virus. I mean, it spawned a set of films that was done really well. love them or hate them. You know, it's a virus gets unleashed in the original, and basically it was a development virus that was never meant to get out, and infected Raccoon City, and you basically got to find the origins of this, but it's the way it's done. However, number 4, as I say, it's more deranged people. It's really creepy. It's like a Brazilian type hick town that you go to. Really, really strange. Some killer bosses in it though, and as always, it's Resident Evil. It's all about the controls, all about the atmosphere. The original ones, you could hear a zombie shuffling before he came on the screen, and then it was like, oh, there he is. And it's the same with this one. You know, they just come at you basically out of the blue. You're wandering down an alleyway and out they fire. And it's really, really good game. Normal sounds there, obviously, and the graphics are... Actually, this takes the graphics to another level. It looks so smooth and so crisp. Apparently big TV is absolutely immense. So that's my number 4. So we lead on to number 3. And into heavy metal as I am, it can only be one, Guitar Hero 2. Now, the reason I didn't put Guitar Hero in here, because it was brilliant, don't get me wrong, but when Guitar Hero 2 came out, we were seeing what they were going to do with it. And they made the guitars better, the tracks were better. It's a franchise that ran and ran and ran until, unfortunately, they split up. One made Rock Band, one made Guitar Hero. And then it's sort of, that sort of genre of titles with the plastic guitar, and that faded out. Then Rocksmith came after it, which you could use proper guitars on. Doesn't seem that popular anyway. In fact, I don't know anybody who's actually got it. You know, if you want to, the whole point of this game was your favourite tracks, having fun with the colours on the screen. Rocksmiths, you know, get the guitar up, do the tunes on the screen, learn the guitar. Well, you can just go to a guitar teacher and learn the guitar, learn it yourself. You don't need a game to do it. You sit down and play a game to have fun, and you know, immerse yourself in something. And the Rocksmith doesn't do that, whereas the Guitar Hero did. You know, you get a couple of friends up, battling against each other. There's some ridiculously good players out there on like expert mode. I've seen songs played by a certain guy, Chinese guy, who's completely in a different room than the telly, an expert 100%. That takes some dedication, that does. So that's the reason, number 3, and plus it gave me all my favourite rock tracks, and the downloadable content you can get came later on, but it went from strength to strength. So we lead on to number 2. Now this is a game that's related to Aikooka, kind of a sequel but not the same. Basically it's Shadow of Colossus. It's an immense game. You can wander around the superb graphics of the environment. There is no enemies to fight, nothing particularly to do. There is only 10 enemies, but they are absolutely massive bosses. It's all bosses, and they are huge. I mean, one of the things is it's a bird. It nests. You have to clamber onto it. The wind's going against you. It's a series of button presses to work your way up the bird, across the wings, up the middle, try and kill it. Another boss, big giant of a guy where you have to get up the legs onto his beard, clamber up. You keep falling back. It's words do no justice. It's not an easy game to pick up. It's a rare game. It will cost you a bit, but it's so worth it. The graphics of the guy and the horse that he's got, as I say, it was a brave move by them to do a game with only 10 bosses and no other enemies, little like sort of enemies to fight on the way. They're literally just these 10, and you have to find out where they are before you can battle them. But when you get to them, it's every worth the wait. You're just like absolutely stunned at what you're looking at. So that's why it's my number 2. Leading on to number 1, and it can only be the most popular franchise that's ever been on consoles for everybody. Controversial, always brings up, you know, speech with violence in video games. This is Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Now, I didn't pick San Andreas because I picked San Andreas on the Xbox as my number 1. But I think San Andreas was better on the Xbox than it was the PS2. However, Vice City came out on PS2 first before the Xbox, and it just blew me away. The size of the map was just plainly ridiculous. The missions were intense and so different, working for different people, and the driving around, I could literally drive around that city all day just listening to the radio station. It had the best soundtrack you'll ever come across. Everything from, you know, sort of dance pop to rock to reggae, it had the lot. Whereas I find that I've got 5 and I love 5, but they took away the rock track, and for me that was, it may seem silly, but it's nice to drive around. They got a sort of soft rock few tracks, but nothing like this with Megadeth and things like that in it, and Aussie. It was brilliant, just added to the atmosphere, and the weaponry is intense. The builds you can go into graphically, the whole package is just a complete package, and that's the reason it had to be my number 1, because I could sit down happily and play that all day easily, all the time. It's just a superb, brilliant game. So that is my number 1, and check out more videos of top 10 of other consoles. I'll say these are my opinions, they're not particularly in any particular order. I have on my website got sort of the acclaimed rated top 10, but these are the personal ones that I'm doing videos on. And yeah, check out any other games that I've mentioned. Trust me, you'll absolutely love them. You'll enjoy them, and especially if there's ones you've never heard of before and think, like for instance, Here Comes the Pain, wrestling game. You think, wrestling, it's all fake rubbish. Try it. It's, you know, especially if you like beat 'em ups, because it's not particularly about wrestling. It's got some great beat 'em up elements to it, because after all, it's beat 'em ups with, you know, moves, more intense moves in a ring. So, you know, it's a lot like other fighting games. So yeah, check it out, and that's my top 10.